All right, ladies, gentlemen, boys, children, everyone of all ages, welcome to the draft. I am Greg Mathern. I am filling in for our regular host, Ryan, who is just, got the world on top of him right now. So I figured I'd step in and also see if I can do something about this unreal winning run that our friend Tino here is on. So, with that said, I'm joined as always. We've got Tino and Phil here with us, and really quickly, we'll jump right to the fact that Tino won again last week, folks. He is up to 11 wins on the season. It does not seem that there's a whole lot that can stop this man right now, but we are going to do our best to do so this weekend. That said, Tino, aside from the fact that you won the draft last week, how did last week at Darlington treat you, my friend?
Yes, sir. Well, always good to have you here, Greg. I appreciate you filling in for Ryan. And in terms of Darlington, I thought it was a great race to watch. The racing product that we had in terms of Chase Briscoe dominating was something that I was glad I wasn't surprised about. We talked about it on the show earlier in the week. I know, Phil was mentioning it as well in terms of how Chase was able to win that race last year from a little Tykes car, I believe he threw out there in that Stewart Haas racing equipment. That to me, it was a no-brainer in terms of thinking he could do the same, if not better, with that Joe Gibbs racing equipment. So that I luckily had Chase Briscoe on my betting card. He went out, dominated, had him for a top 5, having to win that race outright. Eric Jones I had for a top 10, and he was a strong bet for a top 5 all day. So a really great week for me. And I think the icing on the cake, if you look at my draft board, was Noah Gragson finishing. I believe it was a top 20 for him. That was it. If you can include that 4 car in your lineup on the draft board and still pull out a victory, that's when I know I've done a successful thing. And it was a great just race to keep track of our battles too. I'm not gonna sit here and say it wasn't close because that was Ross Chastain and Eric Jones battling against each other there, and a bunch of other drivers throughout the field and on our lineups that really it was close during that race. So that to me made it exciting to watch. And just seeing the respect I have for Chase Briscoe continuing to grow, because the race he put on is something that I really respected, and the domination factor that he had was well deserved. So I had a really good weekend because of that.
Well, that is awesome to hear. Phil, how about you? You have a similarly positive week, or how did it go for you?
Yeah, I had a good week betting, and also enjoyed watching the battles throughout. I know the race overall kind of had a lot of heat from people on X, just talking about how the next gen car is brutal, which is probably true. But I had fun following these battles. I had fun following like head-to-head battles. I'll say this: I honestly, hand to God, did not think that Eric Jones could do what he did. And that was a difference maker. I know TK just said that in the chat. Like huge trust in that 43, goes out and does it. I saw a great meme that was like, if Darlington was the track every week and this would be Eric Jones and Chase Briscoe, and it was like Gordon and Earnhardt. Like they just are awesome there. So, yeah, props to Tino for getting it done in the draft, but overall had a good betting week, and got to figure out a way to. I really thought that I had matched him last week strategy wise from a roster standpoint, and he still sneaks in there with Eric Jones. So got to figure out a way tonight to just get the guys. This week I'm not going to worry about Tino. I'm just going to get the guys that I want. Doing a lot of fantasy football drafting over this past week. Got to get my guys. That's my deal. How about Mike, left turn betting?
What up, Mike? What up, Mike?
What's up, Mike? Haven't seen him in here. So yeah, looking forward to tonight.
Yeah, I'll say the Eric Jones thing was a shock to me. We know he has the ability to do really well at this track, but he just legacy's not been putting together a lot of stuff. And then I will say after practice and qualifying, he just looked like he was on a lawnmower out there during practice. And then, okay. I mean, qualified, I think 22nd. So it wasn't like it was, the worst, but it was solidly in the middle. And then, once he got up there, he had the car for it. So I think that was interesting. I think we saw a couple of them like that. Chase Briscoe again was not somebody who looked very good in practice. Now, obviously, he went up there and he put it on the front row, so he had some speed in qualifying. Um, but it was a weird week with the way that practice was for some of these guys, and you know, hopefully, I think for those of us who try and make some of our money, make a little bit of a living betting, we see a little bit more predictability after practice. Hopefully, practice is a little more useful this week. But yeah, I mean, I think Phil, you just to kind of wrap up the overview of Darlington, you kind of hit the nail on the head. There was some good stuff in the pack. Unfortunately, the front of the race. Don't get me wrong, Chase Briscoe had a phenomenal car, but I think when we look at it, we look at these tracks that only have the one groove, which really Darlington only has one groove that works particularly well, and that clean air is just so dominant that he put on a show, and I don't mind seeing shows, but it's definitely disappointing that we didn't get a little bit more of a battle, because I do think at the end there it would have been fun to see what Eric Jones and Tyler Reddick had for him, if not for just how hard it was to do anything in that dirty air. So in any event, Phil, as we turn ourselves to this weekend, we are headed to Gateway out there, middle America. So, what do you got for us on this track, my friend?
Yeah, Worldwide Technology Raceway. I don't call it that though. I call it I call it Gateway, like you just referred to it as. That's what I'll always call it. Um, yeah, it's weird. The Enjoy Illinois 300, even though it's like right outside of St. Louis. Um, so yeah, this is a 1.25-mile track. It's a shorter flat track, but it's definitely larger than the other comps that we'll mention here. So that makes it interesting. This is the fourth time that the Cup Series has ever been to Gateway. So they started going here when the next gen car came out. So we've got 3 races in the history of the Cup Series to look back on. While we're on, the track stats here, the winner has started on the pole one of those 3 times, Kyle Busch in 23. 2 of the 3 times they've started in the top 5, and 100% hit rate starting inside the top 10. So as we're used to here on these short flats, starting position is important. Toyota has been shut out here so far. Ford has 2, Chevy has 1, and I'm sure we'll get to some of the details of who is good here in just a little bit. But stage breaks, we're going to have a 45 lap stage 1, a 95 lap stage 2, and 100 laps to end it. This is the first time out of all of these races that they've been here that this race is now in the playoffs. So not sure how that's going to impact things from a cooler weather situation potentially. I don't know how hot it is in St. Louis, but September compared to June, which has been at the 3 times we've been here previously. That'll be interesting. From a good race standpoint, the good race poll from Jeff Gluck, mid 60s. There was one that was like an 83. So I think we're kind of expecting a little bit like we saw last week as far as like, was it a good race? Mid 60s would be probably a good thing. And last thing I'll mention is, tires. We saw the tires used at Iowa earlier this year. There was a tire test from this racetrack, Gateway. I believe it was Eric Jones, Brad Keselowski, and Kyle Larson that tested those tires there for Goodyear. So, yeah, looking forward to it on Sunday at 3 p.m. on USA. So that's the breakdown.
Yeah, so I mean, I think as you said, the cool weather I think is the thing that I'm definitely looking at, and that same tire from Iowa. So I think that's interesting. When I went and I ran our comps for this weekend, um, It's hard to predict this one. There's not a whole lot that I could look at that I could say, oh, I feel really confident at grabbing a stat from this area. Um, it feels weird to kind of pull from the short track package to say like, oh, even though we're using the intermediate package, the short tracks are what I'm looking at. But yeah, I mean, we're using a short track tire. And when I'm looking at it, kind of outside Nashville, which had a conversation about this the other week. When I look at Nashville, it weirdly just correlates to everything. Like it's just got like a 75% correlation coefficient with literally every single track on the schedule. So we'll see some of that. I pulled up the true performance metrics for the drivers on this track. Ryan Blaney obviously has had a really good run here. Was probably in position to run last year, then ran out of gas and handed a win to a teammate. So it's kind of a mixed bag. We see some guys who are all over the place. Brad Keselowski's been pretty good sometimes and been really terrible some other times. It's kind of been all over the place. Kyle Busch definitely fell off last year after 2 really strong years before that. So I think it'll be kind of interesting to see, and particularly as you said, being here in the playoffs, going to be interesting to see how that plays out. So, with that said, let's get into the draft itself. And Tino, I'm gonna make you go first as the winner. I'm gonna say that you gotta start drawing first. So, from our friends over at 2311, who maybe didn't have the best day overall today with their
Oh yeah.
preliminary injunction being denied. Who of those drivers are you going to grab for this week?
Yeah, well, that's definitely a good point. But one driver that's been able to block out the noise from that standpoint in terms of the lawsuit and just overall this season that's really impressed me has been Bubba Wallace. He's going to be in my pick for this one this weekend. Tyler Reddick showed a lot of great speed last week, which was encouraging because I didn't know where they're at in terms of a playoff standpoint speed-wise. But I feel like this track, Bubba's been getting faster on the shorter tracks, is a short flat, if you want to call it that. I feel like it's a very unique racetrack compared to ones. It looks a little bit like the opposite of Darlington, but it has no banking. So from that standpoint, it's like the both of the turns are high intensity braking zones, and the fact that they're different sizes, or that's something that always intrigues me when we come here. But I'm going to be going Bubba Wallace in this one. His track record in terms of finishes here may not be the best in terms of other guys we're going to be pointing out, especially in the Ford camp. But I think he's got a good shot to continue the speed and momentum. Definitely stage points too. That's the one thing I did want to mention for him. They did a great job of that all season. That's part of it where, yes, he wants to get into the playoffs, but notched him an 8th to 9th place spot in terms of the standings. I think they keep doing that. He'll advance the next round too.
Yep, makes a lot of sense. I'm gonna grab the next one for Ryan here, and I love everything that you said about Bubba Wallace. But I'm just gonna turn over to Tyler Reddick, just given how much he maintained throughout the race last week. And I don't know that this necessarily means a whole lot that Bubba started off really fast in the race and then kind of faded down the track. I don't know that that means a ton. But Tyler Reddick was just absolutely on fire the entire race. He was, I think, really the only one who had anything that could have come close to challenging Briscoe. And, at the end of the day, when I just look at our sims, we're just a little bit higher on him. We're pretty flat through the middle. And we're just higher on Reddick. So I'm gonna pivot over to, what our sims say is the guy who's got the better performance. So Phil, where are you going?
Yeah, no, I think to me, this is the toughest question of the day, the toughest team for me to choose from. And it's interesting that both of you guys split because I think this is an absolute coin flip. My choice is going to be Bubba Wallace. And the reason for that is because I'm putting a lot of emphasis on obviously the the next gen races, or the only races here at Gateway. But I am looking at Phoenix, Iowa, and Richmond. And so if you look at just Gateway, Bubba's dog shit. He's had horrible finishes. So that kind of leads you and to look at to Tyler, but Tyler hasn't been like phenomenal. He had a 4th place finish last year, which is encouraging. But when you look at this year's, short flats, I'm actually seeing Reddick as like kind of a question mark, which is surprising to me. He's had good qualifying efforts, but just like his best finish on those 3 tracks is 19th. And when you look at Bubba, I mean, I look back, Tino, we were together. That Richmond race, he was really strong. And, so I'm putting a little bit of a, bias on it because his finish was not there. But I'm saying, look, I saw it with he finished 6th at Iowa and then qualified 7th at Richmond on a wonky weekend, like in practice and qualifying for Richmond. And he was running up front until he lost that wheel, I believe is the problem that he happened there, and finished 28th. So if he doesn't lose that wheel, he's finishing top 10 for sure. That instantly puts him at least 2-1 against Reddick this year on the short flat. So I just feel like Bubba has been more, unflappable. And when you look at this style of racetrack, he's on an upward trajectory, where with Reddick, I'm kind of, question mark. So like I said, it's 6 in one hand, half dozen the other, and I'll go with the 23.
No, that makes a lot of sense. And I think they were both, I think, really good at Richmond, just, turn into that, which I've blended into, our simulations. And they, they both had issues. And I'll say this is going to go a little bit against the fact that I just picked Tyler Reddick here. But we've talked a lot about this in the Win the Race Discord, and I think there's a lot of merit to it. Bubba Wallace is a not at all talked about, I think, by a lot of people, but a surprisingly sneaky pick to not just make the Final Four at Phoenix, but I'll tell you what, if that guy is there in the final, he won't have the same odds as anybody else there, right? But if he won that race, it would not shock me. And it wouldn't shock me if he wins that race, even if he's not in the Final Four, right? I mean, what we have seen with him on the short flats this year has been really, really good. I think, and it goes back to, I think, a lot of us when, he joined 23XI and, we came to the next gen car, we kind of looked at it and we said, Bubba is a guy who's had some success at these short flat tracks, down in the Truck Series, and kind of expected a little bit more out of him. And it had been a while since we'd seen that. He'd kind of become an intermediate guy, and we're seeing that now. So I got to give him props on that, despite the fact that I'm picking against him.
Hey, to your point too, like you said at Indy, like I feel like that's a great opportunity to where, and TK mentioned in the chat, so shout out TK and other people in the chat. We'll get to your comments as well. I think easier for Bubba to be on a high when he won unexpectedly, whereas Reddick hasn't won when he's expected to. And I think that's a great point. And I think to go along with that, a flat track, Indianapolis. Here we are at another flat track. Obviously, a lot more speed at Indy compared to here at Gateway. But maybe it's something that could bode well for their setup. So definitely wanted to point that out. And shout out TK for the good comment.
For sure, for sure. Well, Phil, since you're already talking, I'm just going to let you keep talking as we go to front row here.
Perfect. So I'm gonna do front row. This was an interesting one, especially what happened last week with my Noah Gragson. Do I go with him? I don't know. I felt like that one was a little lucky, and it played well into his Darlington hands there. I'm gonna go with Zane Smith here. I feel like Zane's the type of driver where one track that I was looking at to sort of gather some data and some research for this weekend was Nashville, another flat track. Zane's had some good finishes there. In terms of front row, definitely hard to put a I guess, a stamp on who can really outperform who when it comes to these guys always. But I think this is a Zane Smith type of weekend. This short tracks, I feel like, benefit him. And when it comes to the flat ones, just any similarities I can pull out to benefit any of these guys. I feel like Nashville fits well for Zane Smith, and being here at Gateway, hopefully he has the same results, top 15, top 20. That'll do me nicely here just to get some good points.
All right, Phil, you tagging along, or you going a different way here?
Yeah, I'm going Zane. I just feel like for this group, a 15th place finish or better wins this group. And Zane Smith, to me, has that potential at this track. He's 17th and 19th. He's got an 11th earlier this year, a 9th at Phoenix. So he's got that potential to finish inside the top 15. The bar is lower for this group, and I just see him compared to these other stats that I'm seeing with these other guys. Just feels like he has the ability to put me there. So got to go Zane.
Yeah, so I was gonna go that way, and I'm gonna twist myself here because I don't want to be all in the same pot. Now I'll say this puts me against the Sims, right? Because when I go and I look at our Sims, from that group, we've got Zane Smith winning that group 43% of the time, against his teammates. So he's by far the favorite from the win the race Sims on that. But I'm gonna go with the guy who's second in that, down at 30% of those wins, and that's Todd Gilliland. And beyond saying that it's just kind of a, two-part, like one, not trying to be the same, trying to pick up a win from my boy Ryan here, but just also a gut. I'm a Gilliland guy. I keep thinking that we're gonna see something. I feel like we've kind of seen some little splashes here and there. But honestly, there's not been a whole lot to be particularly excited about or hopeful about with Front Row this year. I really thought they were going to make a bigger step forward than they have. And so I kind of feel like even if our sim is saying that Zane is kind of the favorite here, I really feel like it's kind of throwing just a dart at the board and seeing, where it comes out on that. So I'll go with Todd and hope he does me well. So now, as we turn to some, I think probably more interesting and definitely harder picks as we kind of get into the meat here. I'm going to take myself first on Hendrick, and I'm going to be simple on this one. And it is simply because of one of two bets that I've placed. The only bet that I've actually placed on a driver this week is on Byron over Chase Briscoe. And honestly, I probably think that's a toss-up, but I was getting such a great number on it. I was getting plus 130 on Byron. I'm like, oh, if it's a toss-up, I'm going to take the plus money. Byron's had a kind of weird, well, not weird for Byron, standard for Byron. Win at the start of the year. Then we kind of wonder what happens to him. He doesn't win a whole lot, does his thing. But we're back in the playoffs. Hendrick had a really bad race at Darlington. I think there's some stats, probably the worst performance that they've had as a 4-car team in quite some time, and probably 10 years, I think, was like the stat. So it was a bad race for them. And, I'm just going to say, like, Byron has been incredibly strong at, some of these comps as a general rule. And so I'm just going to lean into that and say this is a bounce back week for him, bounce back week for all of Hendrick. I think it's going to be hard for you to be wrong about any of these picks, but I'm going to lean into Byron because I've already put some money there. So keep rolling with it. So Tino, who are you gonna grab here?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Well, before I give my pick, gotta shout out Easton for commenting here, watching in the chat. Appreciate all you guys in the comments coming in. We'll get to them like right away or throughout the show, like this one here, because it lined up with Hendrick, so I saved it for now. Easton said, should we start being concerned with Hendrick Motorsports when it comes to their chances at a championship after what they did last week? Yes. Like, I'm officially saying yes, because when we get to Phoenix, everyone knows Team Penske is the team to beat there. So that's Logano, that's Blaney. Hey, maybe Cindric could get there, but obviously my mind's on those first two there. Very, but Logano, Blaney, I feel like one of those two, if not both of them, are going to be in. Well, then you also look at the Toyotas. Well, Christopher Bell won there. I feel like Denny Hamlin's very fast there as well. Obviously, it's going to take him getting there to get to winning a championship, but I don't really see them when we go to these tracks like Darlington, and it matters in terms of the tire wear and just a long green flag runs. That obviously is a different track, but those things happen at Phoenix. And when it's a crown jewel race, you expect them to be up there contending for a win. Larson was there, but he faded away. He had damage, I know. But to me, I feel like, and as Zach said here, Hendrick's cooked. Like, I don't think they're totally, all the way gone in terms of having one driver there. But when you put one driver in the championship four, no matter who it is, Larson, Elliott, Byron, obviously, I feel like is the favorite for most people. I don't think they're going to be at the top of my list to win that championship. So that's my take from that. I'd like to hear what Phil thinks as well when he gets to his pick. But for this weekend, I am going with Kyle Larson. To me, when I looked at the stats for this track particularly, and how the drivers have fared in recent years here, Larson, third best in terms of average finish among all active drivers with an 8.7. And then Byron's 11th, Elliott 14th, and Bowman 24th. And that to me was kind of just all I really needed to know. And I've seen Kyle Larson, watch those races here at Gateway and seen him been close to some victories. Maybe not had the strongest car, but put himself in positions there at the end. In which I also wanted to bring up a comment from before where pit crews matter to me way more in the playoffs. Big Ross said it. Perfect. Got to make it happen on restarts and pit road here. We saw that at Darlington last weekend as well. People have gripes with that race, and I respect everyone's opinion because that's what I feel like should be done in terms of great discourse in the community. But to me, Denny Hamlin was the car that could have won the race. His pit crew doesn't execute. You don't win the race. He battled back. He passed cars. Like, dirty air is a factor, yes, but it's a factor at every track. Denny Hamlin showed that you can pass cars. And Tyler Reddick, Eric Jones put up a strong run at the end too. So my point is, going on a little bit of a tangent, these pit crews, when they consistently, get the clean stops, like we saw Briscoe's team completely do the entire night, that matters at tracks like Darlington. That'll matter here. And with the playoffs, that urgency, I feel like, is just ramped up where we can see teams, Hendrick Motorsports, Alex Bowman. You never really hear anything, at least from their side of things, that are, messed up stops consistently, anything like that. So I just feel like that could be an issue. Want to bring up those comments. Appreciate everyone commenting. And I feel like that's where I'm at in terms of the Hendrick camp. I'm very interested to see if they can rebound from last week.
Absolutely. So, Phil, you joining one of us? We going another direction? Where are we at here?
This is where I got to talk to myself and I got to stick to my strategy because there's a part of me that really wants to be different, but I'm not going to do it. The guy I would be different with would be Alex Bowman because of his short flat success this year. It's like sneaky good. But I have Kyle Larson written down. I'm going with Kyle Larson. His gateway finishes are not like anything to write home about. That's a fact. It's just like, okay, you know what I mean? But what we're seeing, he's Kyle Larson and he could go out and get it done at any point in time. Like if he were to go out and win this race, 12th, 4th, 10th are the finishes that we're seeing here. That still puts him third in average finish at Gateway. So like pretty solid. This season, I think if you're cheering for Larson, like Tino and I clearly are, we need him to not qualify well because on short flats, Phoenix, he didn't qualify well, finished third. Richmond didn't qualify well, finished sixth. And then he qualified third at Iowa and finished 28th. So like, it's just, weird, wonky situation there. I will say this about the question from Easton. I'm the opposite. I don't think it's time to panic. I don't think that they are cooked because this is a battle of attrition, right? And they still have two drivers who are very much good on points right now. They got Elliott +9 to the cut line. If you've got four guys in the playoffs each round, if you just lose one guy, you still have a driver in the championship race. That's all you're trying to do is get at least one in to the championship race. And I think Byron and Larson are very qualified to, make the championship race, 50%. So just because Darlington was rough doesn't mean, if you still look at the points, those two are pretty damn good on points. So Hendrick has a knack for being able to be good on, the tracks where we expect them to be good and bide their time and do well in the playoffs. Did anyone think that Chevy or, Hendrick was going to dominate last week? I didn't. And I don't think they're going to this week. So even if they don't do it this week, I'm not going to panic. You know what I mean? So we just got to see how they do, kind of horse for course type of deal for them. If you get to a track where we expect them to do well and they don't, that's a different story.
No, I think that makes a lot of sense. And I would agree. I don't think it's time to panic on Hendrick. In fact, when I placed that Byron over Briscoe bet, kind of my line was, look, unless you think that Hendrick is, totally cooked for some reason, at worst, that was a toss up bet. And so, my thought is, no, they're not cooked, right? I mean, there's too much talent in the drivers and obviously in the crew chiefs, the car engineers, and everything that goes into it. There's just too much talent for them to just completely lose it. This isn't F1 where all of a sudden somebody at McLaren came up with like some cool new underbody to the car that suddenly they're the Red Bull cars are no longer relevant, right? Like that's not what this series is. And so my thought is, yeah, they'll be here, and I'm not super worried about it yet. Again, if we maybe we get to the end of this this round of the playoffs, if Kyle Larson doesn't show up next week at
Yeah,
when we're at Bristol,
Yeah.
then we start to worry, right? Like, and same thing with Bowman, right? I mean, like Bowman has been really, really good there. Not to jump ahead to the next race, right? But I think that's when we start to really panic. I think Bristol is our kind of, our canary in the coal mine for Hendrick. If they don't show up at Bristol, we got problems, and then we start to worry. So, in any event, let's move on. I will keep talking myself because I really like hearing the sound of my voice right now. And I'm going to talk about my Joe Gibbs Racing pick. This is a tough one for me. I think actually for me, this is probably the toughest of any of them, because trying to pick out consistency across it has been very difficult. When I look at it, I basically at this point I consider, in terms of Joe Gibbs, like I just whatever Martin Truex Jr. did, I'm basically assuming that's what Chase Briscoe is going to do at this point. He's proven him and that team have gotten together, and they're basically showing that they're going to do whatever, have the ability to do whatever Truex did, and put it there. He was good here. Denny Hamlin has a couple of second place finishes here. And obviously Chris Bell, like, again, we just talk about the kind of track type. Do we, think that that's what it's going to be? I'll say this too. Last year, only finished seventh, but started fourth. Chris Bill had an average running position of 4.31, and probably as critically, had 74 fastest laps. I mean, that car was an absolute rocket. When you talk about performance at this track last year. That said, I'm going to dump over to Denny. I think Denny is just digging in a different way. I think he, more than anybody else, has got to be really disappointed with his performance last week, because he had a car that could do it and he didn't get damaged. Bell got damaged, so like, okay, well, I'm damaged, what am I gonna do? But Denny just has to go, man, I had the car, right? I had the car, and hopefully we're going to solve it. TK, yeah, pit crews have been a huge issue for him, but we've also seen that team can absolutely put together some heaters of stops. And I'm just going to look at it and say, okay, it's time for them to shine. I think they're going to find a way to do it, and I think Denny finds a way to get it done here.
Love it.
So, and I'll turn right back to you, Phil. I'll let you have your shot at these guys.
Yeah. I thought you were going a number of different directions there, but you landed on my guy. And like I said, I'm trying to stick to my picks here. Denny Hamlin. I see the chat kind of saying different directions here. They like Briscoe, they like Bell. I'm digging Hamlin. Back-to-back second place finishes here. I think that's great information to be able to pull from. And then also this season, we are seeing a second place at Phoenix, an 11th place qualifying effort at Iowa, 24th place finish, and then qualified 4th at Richmond. We were on him to win the race there. So many problems on pit road, and he still bounces back and finishes 10th. Like so short flats this season, I think, absolutely something to be worried about if you are the competition going to one of these tracks. And so Chris Bell, clearly in a couple weeks when we go to the last one, is going to be everybody's pick. But I think this is an opportunity for the 11 team to get it done. So Hamlin, for those reasons and what Greg was just saying, I think that's what makes sense to me.
Absolutely understood. Tino, you joining us? We gonna go a little bit different. Can we psych you out here?
Oh, no, I'm too locked in to be any mind games. But I will say, this Joe Gibbs Racing slot on the board is something I've been thinking about all day. It is one that I have come to a conclusion with, but to me, this was the hardest play. This was the hardest decision. And it was between a guy in Denny Hamlin, who you guys have hyped up, but I'll also add 2 consecutive second place finishes at this track. And we know it's proven when Denny has the results at places, he will go there and continue to build on that. That's one thing. If the car will be there. If the car will be there, or as TK noted already, if the pit crew issues won't be there. So that's something that I thought about for him. But for Christopher Bell, one thing that I've thought about was how he was kind of dominating this race in the late portion last year, battling with Ryan Blaney. Maybe I shouldn't say dominating, but I'll say the battle for the lead was very dominant between those two drivers that had very fast cars. Well, the reason he doesn't win that race last year is because they had a problem with the engine. And he finished, or maybe it wasn't the engine, or it was he ran out of gas. There was some problem that Christopher Bell had in this race last year with 30 laps to go when he was about to take the lead from Ryan Blaney, or he had the lead and he lost it, and he finished 7th still in that race. To me, that's something that I didn't want to forget. I watched that race. I remember watching that race last year and said, okay, Bell's a guy to keep my mind on moving into this year. And I got to say, Denny Hamlin, sure, he got a second place finish, but maybe it was a 3rd or a 4th had Bell not had his issue and Ryan Blaney not run out of gas. So I'm going with Christopher Bell for my pick. And I think Big Ross said it perfectly in the chat, because that 8-1 number on Bell's championship future, I don't think that number gets any longer. I think this is as long as it's going to get heading into this week, because I think he has a chance to win this weekend. I don't like not having Denny Hamlin. Maybe we'll see what happens when we get to the big 3 and other places. I don't want to totally write him off. But if I don't have Denny Hamlin, I will say I am a little scared. But I think the draft I've cooked up in my mind tonight could provide me more points if I don't even have the winner like Denny Hamlin. And there you go, Sean McBride. I stopped copying Phil's picks, even though I went first every round.
Yeah, my randomness on who's going maybe not random enough. But yeah, I mean, I think, like we said, this is a tough one to draw on. So for sure. All right. Well, since you're, complaining about going first, you get to go first again, just for that. All right. So make your Penske pick, my friend.
Oh man, well I'm excited to make my pick here because there's a lot of drivers. I mean, there's three of them that I feel like have a shot to win this race. The first one I'm going to go with, and shout out to my buddy Sean McBride. We all know, everyone knows he's a big Logs fan, but first choice has got to be Ryan Blaney. Ryan Blaney, this to me is his track. Much like the other two drivers that have a chance here on this one. But the finish he's had 4th, 6th, 24th, but that 24th should have been a first. And if he would have had a first last year and had that extra one lap of gas, he would have then been within the top 3 or 5 in terms of average finishes at this track. If we want to also talk about how he won Nashville earlier this year, I think that's a perfect way to put it too. But as Team 54 said, and I have said as well, it's Ryan Blaney and Sean McBride. Hey, I don't want to be dead to you just yet. There's still a lot of show left to go.
Yeah, I'll make mine. I'm just gonna, say the exact same thing. It's Ryan Blaney. I don't know that you can argue that the other guys aren't going to be strong here, or that you think that Penske has issues here. Any of the drivers are going to have issues here, not be really strong. But Blaney was, I think if he wasn't the car to beat, it was only because Chris Bell was the car to beat, right? I mean, there was that battle you're talking about with them. He's had phenomenal performances here, and as you said, Nashville's kind of been a really strong, kind of comp. I mean, really and truly, the of all the comps that I pull up when I look at it in terms of correlation in between speed at the two tracks, like what's the most predictive. Nashville's the best one. He won the race. Did he sneak up to win Nashville? Yeah, he did. But he's got that ability, right? So I think I got to go there and say it. So, and I'll just run with that. Phil, are you coming with us?
Well, why don't I go with Penske and then I'll lead right into Big Three.
All right.
Because no shirt, no Blaney. Yeah, maybe if the shirt finds its way on Sunday, I'll send a tweet out and I'll send the alert out that the Blaney shirt's in play, because it's very possible. Blaney's my pick, and that race last year definitely throws it off. So if you're just looking at finishes, yeah, it looks weird, but speed rating here is just phenomenal. And short flats, this year, he's a force, which to me with Blaney, the point to make is Richmond, a track that historically he has sucked at, goes out somehow, some way, starting whatever the hell it was, 20th, finishes 3rd, and it was not a fluky 3rd. Obviously some other guys fell off, but he was strong all night. So that's a track that he hasn't been good at. And I think that's a great sign for him moving forward. And this track could definitely speak to him. So Blaney's the pick, but I'll go right into the Big Three. And while I am pissed at Joey Logano because he cost me points last week versus Tino, I'm going right into Joey Logano this week because he's too tough to ignore. He's 3 for 3 at Gateway, finishing inside the top 5. Top 5. I mean, that's wild. I don't think there's anybody. No one else even has 3 for 3 finishing inside the top 10. So pretty impressive stuff here for Joey Logano. And it's, going back to horses for courses, that sort of thing. We say it often, but then you look at the short flats this year: 13th, 9th, 4th, in that order, getting better, getting stronger, now going to arguably one of his best tracks on the circuit now, in the next gen car. So Joey Logano had to be on my I appreciate it, Sean. Hopefully he comes through this week, but yeah, he had to be on my card and on my roster this week. So kicking off the Big Three that way.
I mean, I think, again, it wouldn't have, shocked me. I think Blaney's the obvious pick for, Penske itself, but if you just said it, the other way around, if anybody had picked Joey, as the Penske pick, yeah, I mean, you can we all made the argument that Blaney's the better guy, but I mean, that makes a world of sense given that, strength and performance. I will take the next one on this, and it's difficult for me on this because trying to sort out, the bias of where I am with bets and stuff. Um, but I'm gonna grab Chase Briscoe here.
Mm,
And it's unusual in that, notwithstanding kind of some strong performances at various times, he actually doesn't necessarily pop in our sims as, the quite as high as I might have expected him coming into it. But I think, again, it just goes back to what I said earlier. At this point, when I look at Chase Briscoe, um, I'm just basically writing in whatever Martin Truex Jr. did. And Martin Truex Jr. had some really good finishes here in the 3 years that they were running. Um, he may not have had the greatest average running position in those races, but he found a way to kind of get home in 22 and 23 with a fifth and a sixth place finish. And again, I'm just going to carry that over, and I'm just going to say that's what Briscoe does. Briscoe has become a short flat guy. Kind of struggled early in the year trying to figure out what the car was, because it was very different for him compared to what he'd been doing over at Stuart Haas. Did not have kind of the same performance, but he has talked about how much he and this team are starting to gel, how well they are feeling together, and how different it is from the start of the year where he was being told, well, you don't know how to drive this car. This is a you problem, to now when he comes to the track and something's not right, the team is telling him, no, this is on us, we've got to give you what you need. And I think that makes all the difference in the world. I expect a really strong performance from him, notwithstanding the fact that I went against him in a head-to-head bet. So Tino, where are you with our big three here?
oof. Well, I know some good picks for sure. Got some logs action, which McBride is happy about. And Brian also chiming in. Appreciate Brian in the chat saying this place is built for Briscoe in the sense that qualifying up front goes a long way in determining your finish. As Phil mentioned in the race preview, 100% of the time that you have started inside the top 10 here, you go on and win the race. Well, to me, one driver that has started inside the top 10 three times, includes starting second twice, includes 53 laps led in this race last year, includes a fourth in stage one, includes a second in stage two. And to me, that's a lot of points that we can add up for the draft. This track to Austin Cindric is Richmond to Austin Dillon. And to me, I'm throwing him on my board because of that. And I could see him potentially win this race here this weekend.
No, that's again going back to what we were just talking about with the Penske guys. I mean, how do we say that any Penske pick is a bad pick at this track? I don't think you can. And yeah, it's funny. Brian, I meant to mention that qualifying thing because we talked about it earlier today in, in the Win the Race Discord about the fact that this was a spot where we could see Briscoe qualifying well and doing really well. That was one of the other big reasons that I had listed down, and I spent all that time talking about Martin Truex Jr. Because I don't know, the guy lives rent free in my head because of how much money he cost me the past couple of years. But no, that was the other big point with Chase Briscoe, is that he'll qualify up front most likely. That's what he's been doing all year, and then he's just going to be able to keep running there. So, all right. Well, Phil, you went first on our big three again. So I was going to come back to you here, but I'll actually take the first on RFK myself. And I'm going to go with the owner, and I'm going to say that it's Brad. And that's gut as much as anything. We look historically, kind of the short flats have been a really strong point for Brad. Not to say that they haven't also been a really strong point for his fellow drivers. Chris Buescher's been strong on them the past couple of years, but I'm just gonna hang with the crafty veteran and hope that he continues to figure it out. He struggled really to start the year. And then if we look at the points as the past couple of weeks went on towards the end of the season, it was way too late for him to get all the way back into it on the points, but he has been coming on strong. I think he continues that trend, and I think that he puts up a good performance this week. So I will grab him, and now, Phil, I will let you take the next pick on this.
Just copy and paste, Greg. Copy and paste. Brad Keselowski's my pick as well. And I know I called him out in the chat when Brian was talking about disappointments this year. I think
Sure.
it's fair to say it was a disappointment. But how about the performance from him last week? I lost a head-to-head matchup that I had versus Brad with Joey Logano, and I was chalking that up as a victory. So part of the stuff that we talked about last week was like, what's his mentality, right? Missing out on the playoffs. All three of the cars are out of the playoffs. New baby. Like, he could easily check out. Talking about that, he could have easily checked out last week. 2 laps down. He might have been like 3 laps down at one point. Comes back and rallies for like a top 15. That was wild to see that type of like oomph from the 6 team in general and Brad Keselowski. So that got me to say, like, all right, he's not giving up. He's not giving up on this year. And so you look at how his Gateway performance has been. 3rd last year, pretty solid. I know a couple guys fell off at the end, so call it a top 5, right? Top 5 run for the 6 car. I like those notes to be able to look back on. And then in 2025, the last 2 short flats we've been to, top 10 finishes, 3rd and 9th. So I think Keselowski, I have him for a top 10 this week, honestly, on ESPN. So I like Keselowski from a few different standpoints, and he definitely needed to make my roster this week.
All right, Tino, wrap us up with our K friends.
Yes, sir. Well, as Phil said it, copy and paste for me as well, my friend. Don't have too much to add on top of everything you guys said because it was perfect. One thing that I will say, since I have a chance to do so, is from Team 54, put this in during my big 3 pick, said Tino pick Ty Gibbs to be nice to them. Give him a win. Nah. Tino don't play like that. Tino don't play like that. See, Tino has a number in mind. Tino is trying to achieve a certain goal here. I'm not going to say it on the air. I'm not going to say it live on air. But if I get to a certain point where that's in reach, I'll let you guys know. But we're not giving out any victories here on the draft.
It's okay. We're not letting you have it this week. This is a no Tino week. He's
Tino
out
for the folks that weren't on the pre-game. Tino already thinks that he has like the diecast 1, and now he's just worrying about what number he's going to hit. So there's some motivation here for Greg and I.
Yeah, now he's just concerned about embarrassing the rest of us.
Exactly.
I mean, again, dude's up 2.5 games right now. That's fair. But it ain't over, my friend.
Mm-hmm.
We're still in this. So with that said, I will let you have the first pick with our boys over at Spire.
Perfect. This one is honestly a pick that may cost me because I really wasn't sure who to go with until the last moment here. There were some drivers, Michael McDowell, for instance, not the best finishes, but I'm going to just throw him out there for the show. 18th, 9th, 25th. To me, I look at that. I say, okay, that could just get me some points. Like, he'll be a consistent 20th place guy because we saw Hurricane Osvar in full effect last week. And after watching stage 1 and 2, I was like, oh man, that's why we stayed away from him. Stage 3 is up there battling for a potential top 5, making noise inside the top 10. With that being said, and what we've talked about in Nashville, Carson Osvar finished 36th here 2 years ago, 8th at this track last year. Got his first start in the Cup Series, I believe, at this track. That's why he's going to be my pick here for Spire. But while I'm talk about Carson Hocevar. I think he's the right play. Nashville, very strong there. I don't know if I mentioned that already, but that's why I'm going to be picking him again in this one. I think he's got a strong play for a top 10. I'd probably take that on the betting side of things if it's plus money. I have to say, thank you, Justin Haley, for last week. Strong performance. Hocevar was better, but he really, first time I picked him all year, and he showed out, and I just really appreciate that from him.
Makes a lot of sense. I'm gonna, do our copy and paste of this one and put Carson Hocevar in for myself. Again, we talk about kind of everybody kind of fading last year, like all sorts of weird, kind of crap went down at the end of the race last year. But he ended up with an 8th place finish. So I think that's there. I mean, I'll make the really quick argument for Justin Haley. He finished 9th here last year in a Rick Ware car at that point. He also had, he's been here, 2 previous years in college cars, had a 14th and a 16th. So he's a solid pick here. Hocevar, I feel, just has more upside. And I feel like he's got to get it done. Is basically what it boils down to. So at some point, Carson Hocevar is going to win. Do I think it's going to be this weekend? No, I don't think it's going to be this weekend. But counterpoint, if it is this weekend, who's going to be shocked by that, right? So, Phil?
Well, I'll say this. This is the only one where I deviated from what I had originally written down because I had Justin Haley written down. And the reason for that was because it's just consistency here over a number of different teams still doing well. The reason I went to Hocevar was because even on a miracle 9th place run last year, Hocevar still beat him by 1. And so Hocevar now looking at this year on the short flat comps, it's not even close. Justin Haley has really struggled this year to get finishes. Qualifies well, like actually has qualified very well. 8th and 10th place qualifying starts, but 34th, 23rd, 37th, like he does Justin Haley things. It's, he disappears. So I can't go against both of you and go with Justin Haley here because it's just not trustable. Meanwhile, Hocevar, he's, for every reason that you guys said, worth calling out. He's done okay this year. Had a 15th at Richmond, started 15th, finished 15th, like, not too shabby. Has a 8th place finish at Iowa, which, I like that since the tires are the same. So yeah, I can't take a home run swing here with Justin Haley because that could cost me everything. So Hocevar is the pick.
No, and to say that, I almost feel like in some ways, Hocevar is both a home run swing and the consistent swing. He's just he's got the higher upside and just course across the across the course of the year.
There you go.
At some point, I'm going to get that phrase out. He's been the more consistent guy, so that's kind of where I'm at with him as well. All right, so as we turn to the best of the rest, I'm going to take it first on this one. I mean, I think there's a lot of ways you can go with this, for sure at this point. I'm going to take what I guess is kind of a little bit of a wild swing here. I was thinking about going with Kyle Busch because he's had a lot of success here, but I'm gonna perhaps do something even weirder. And I'm gonna take his teammate here, and I'm gonna say that because he's in the playoffs. He needs a performance, right? And so if I'm going to look at all of that, he obviously won at Richmond. So he's had some success on the short flat tracks. They've been able to, not last year, but the year before, they were able to kind of put something together for KFB here. And so I'm just going to say, hey, there's the shot here that Austin Dillon he shows up and puts together a big performance. Team 54, yeah, I get your Ross argument for sure. That makes all yeah, it's just all the sense in the world. but I'm trying to think outside of the box here, see, where we could see some really interesting stuff. Yeah, Brian, 83, it's just it could be a weird spot where they really show up and they put something together. So
Okay, all
that's where
right.
I'm going to roll with it. So then, Phil, where are you for the rest of this Wild Cup series?
So so the Chastain conversation is an interesting one. I actually called him out over Bubba Wallace in a head-to-head matchup, but I am taking Austin Dillon as well. I thought he'd be the only one. I thought I'd be the only one here. The points
Wow.
about Bush
Wow.
being fast, and winning a race in an RCR car, having those notes at Gateway. To me, I think that's underrated. But let's just focus on Austin Dillon. All right, like Austin Dillon is not a slouch. He finished 6th last year, and then this season, look, Brian Twining said he's got him for a top 10. Top 10, 3-1. I called him out on my podcast for 2-1, 3-1 on Caesars right now. Like I kind of have to double down on that a little bit. Let's see, looking at this season, 12th at Phoenix, 10th at Iowa, 1st at Richmond. We knew what he did there. Like, at what point in time are we going to start saying, like, he's actually pretty solid on these style tracks? Like, we knew that Richmond was his favorite, but I think we can expand it a little bit. The fact that he's in the playoffs, the fact that this team has won here in the past, and the fact that he's just generally good at the style, I think all speaks to this. So, yeah, I mean, there's definitely a number of different ways you could go with the best of the rest. But I'm also the same mindset. Austin Dillon being in the playoffs is a big factor here. And we'll see. I'm interested to see who Tino goes with. Could be a little bit exposed here. But Dillon's my pick.
All righty. Tino, I cannot imagine that you are joining us on Austin Dillon. So where are you going? Because we know it will be different.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Hey, respect to the Austin Dillon picks. I definitely see the vision there. But I think Team 54 kind of tossing me up a lob here with this one. Going back and looking at that race from last year, one guy that was in the top 10 an awful lot. You know who? And even if I don't know who he's talking about, and even if we're not on the same page, the answer is clear.
So it's Ty Gibbs is what I'm hearing here.
Oh, wow.
That could be a crazy one. No. See, to me, it's got to be Kyle Busch. And I know a lot of
Wow.
people like you guys are thinking Austin Dillon's in the playoffs. They're going to give him the special sauce. Well, I thought Kyle Busch was going to get the special sauce at Richmond, and that just didn't happen. And sure, Austin Dillon finished 6th here last year, but didn't really have the results before that. I understand not knocking the pick. I'm just that high on Kyle Busch because we got a 2nd place. We got a win after that. And then last year, obviously gets involved in an accident, but we're talking about where he can start at this track. Qualified top 10, 10th last year, led 15 laps before he did get into that accident. That's what I want to see. And if Kyle Busch is capable of these results, I expect him, because think about it. I mean, let's say he finishes in the top 10 there last year. That's a 2nd place finish, a 1st, and a top 10. That's the best average finish of all drivers on this track. So, yeah, 35th, by the way, he was in an accident. What do you want from me? So, Kyle Busch, to me, this is the one where it could be an Austin Dillon versus Kyle Busch battle. Another guy I thought of was a little AJ Allman there. Not going to go with him, but wanted to throw him out there because I liked what he did last weekend. Talk about passing. The dinger went from 22nd to 5th. Come on. So that's just me getting hyped for the dinger real quick. But speaking of dingers, Kyle Busch is tuned up for this weekend. If you guys haven't seen that video, go check it out because it's pretty just interesting from Kyle Busch on social media there.
Kyle Busch has had a weird week on social media. I literally, after one of his tweets yesterday, my response was, okay, that's enough internet for today. I was like, okay, I'm done. We're good.
Guys,
I mean, but maybe he's had the appropriate tune-up for this car and for his body, for whatever else. If you don't know what I'm talking about, that's probably for the best.
Yeah.
But you go look at his Twitter account and see what nonsense is going on there.
You gotta honestly, like, I understand being caught up in the numbers for Kyle Busch, but something. Yeah, this shit that you're talking about. Like, how many TikToks is he going to have to fucking film at Gateway with Sam Bush? Like, how many ads is he going to have to put together for her new fucking podcast? Like, he is so checked out on this season. It's not even funny. He's not even hiding it. So, like, I saw that his finishing numbers were unbelievable.
Yeah.
And I ignored it, completely ignored it. Like driver rating, like Mike said, left turn betting. I agree, but I can't. It's like I got to put the human element into this with Kyle Busch. And if he goes out and proves me wrong, fine. But you want to talk about qualifying, Tino? You want to talk about how qualifying matters? Kyle Busch qualifying efforts this year: 15th at Phoenix, 37th at Iowa, 28th at Richmond. This dude is checked out. Let's see, we'll see at Daytona and, go from there. So I love that we have this head-to-head matchup because I'm going to be really, really following that one.
An RCR battle. Team 54 saying Jesse loves seat warmer. That's it couldn't be true, but
I mean, certainly more than an Austin Hill seat warmer at this point, because I don't think that kid's ever gonna see it at this point.
I'm exposing myself because when Kyle Busch goes out and runs third, Tino's going to clip me and put me, into the show next week. So
honestly, that's a great point because Kyle Busch getting tuned up is exactly what I need for that. I wanted to put that video into the draft, but if any kids may be watching our show, I couldn't do it. That Kyle Busch, Sam Busch last TikTok was insane. But that's why I'm going Kyle Busch. I want everyone to know. I mean, come on.
Again, that's enough internet for today. I was like, okay, I'm done. I'm gonna go home, hug my wife and kids and touch some grass because I don't know, maybe he needs to go touch some grass. I'm not sure what is going on over there. He's always been a weird dude, but he is really weird dude this week for sure. All right, Tino, let's fill out your card, my friend. What is your last pick, your wild card for this weekend?
Okay, so we made it to the end of the show. And I appreciate everyone for tuning in for my wild card pick here. I was a little nervous, from time to time. The boys have been trying to get me because normally I've been going last. I'm able to be the closer. This time I'm going first because I keep winning and I keep defending each and every win with this final pick here, even when the guys try to take my spot. Because in this one, I wanted to wait to the very end. And it was really just a matter of seeing if Sean McBride would be staying tuned in to the final pick because...
Oh, again, it's Ty Gibbs again, right? I'm just going to go ahead and write it in for you.
What showed up at my door today really made me believe that not just Ryan Blaney, not just Austin Cindric, but Joey Logano is going to win this race this weekend. The championship car arrived today. If you guys don't know, check it up there. I've been collecting the past champions, putting them over there. It's time for Joey to go up, and it's time for Logs to ride us to victory this weekend. Come on, all three Team Penske drivers. You didn't think I'd be crazy enough to do that, did you? Well, I did. Logs this weekend. Come on.
I love it, Tino. I mean, look, that when we look for those signs, right? Those are those signs for us to look for. So no, and again, we go right back to what we said. Can't go wrong with the Team Penske boys. All right, Phil, what do you got this week here?
Man, I love that. I love the fact that came in the mail today. Absolutely love that. I was at Target with my 4-year-old and looking at cars, and he wanted the one with the confetti, and that was Joey Logano. Must have been like a win race or something from last year, but yeah, love that came in the mail. And I wish I was quick enough on my feet to pivot here. But I'm not going to. The first bet I made this week was Penske plus 250 as a team. I had it in my mind. Like I said, fantasy football style. I'm getting my guys. Austin Cindric's in there, neutralizing Tino. I'm not letting Penske beat me this week. Really just forcing Kyle Busch to do the job. Looking at this here,
That's what
I
the
guess
video's
it's
all about.
Bell Hamlin versus Busch and Dillon. I don't mind that at all. But yeah, I mean, this isn't me trying to neutralize you. This is me going out and getting the guy that I wanted, Austin Cindric, like we talked about. I think the Team Penske could be looking at this weekend saying, this is a Cindric week. Like if they could choose, I think that they would put Cindric in and let Logano go get stuff done points wise next week. So I absolutely have a lot of faith in Cindric this weekend. I don't want to be left out in the rain not having him. So he's on the board, and I got all three of them.
Yeah, I mean, I get it. Hard to argue with that. I will wrap it up. I will say when we simmed out this week, we have our clear leader. That's Ryan Blaney. And we got a pack of guys, three of them, a little bit after that, before we drop off to our guys in the 5 to 6% range. And the only one from that pack that I have not already put on the card is Christopher Bell. So I'm going to add in Mr. Bell here, if I can spell his name.
So that's Briscoe, Denny, and Bell. 3 JGR guys against 3 Penske guys. I like that.
So yeah, I'm gonna grab Christopher Bell. He's he's one of those guys in that pack. We've got Ryan Blaney, and then our next two basically are Denny Hamlin and Chris Bell. And so I'm just going to grab him. I'm going to put him in there. And I'm going to say the short flat tracks, guy's been great at. Again, we look to what he did here last year with that strong performance. I'm going to say I think it's time to kind of get up and go. Similar to Denny, he was out for different reasons last week. He had the damage as opposed to, his pit crew failing him. But again, as another guy who's just got to feel like, even if he didn't have, I don't think he had nearly the car that Denny had last week, but even, again, just a guy who's like, hey, I had a much better car than I showed up with last week. I want to put this back on the board. I think he's got something to fight for. And so I'm going to say that's Christopher Bell on that. And so that will wrap us up for that. Folks, always a pleasure. I love filling in for Ryan here. It's always a great time chatting with you all. Love all of the if you're not familiar with Samantha Busch, Samantha Busch is Samantha Busch. She is a unique woman.
You got to check her out for yourself. That if you haven't seen the Kyle Busch video yet, that was the reason for my best of the rest pick. After we close it out here, everyone go type in Kyle Busch to your social medias and not safe for work. Check it out.
I was gonna say make sure your children are not around when you do that. Look, they're a unique couple. They're an interesting couple for sure. Anyway, always a pleasure to fill in for Ryan and hang out for a little bit with Tino and Phil. Always a good time talking to you guys. So we will close it out there. Tino, before we go, where can everybody find you, support you? What's going on with you?
Yes, sir. I appreciate it. Shout out to everyone in the chat as well. Before I get to myself, Team 54 saying, great job. Appreciate that. He will not be looking at that video. Have a good night. And totally respect it. So, we'll leave it to the imagination for some. But Team 54, Sean McBride, Easton in the chat. We had Kyle and Brian, as always. Check them out. Mike from Left Turn Betting. Awesome to see you in here, buddy. Appreciate you joining us here tonight. TK had some great comments. And just everyone, Big Ross, of course. Miami Mike, I saw. We also had Lee in the chat. And I just appreciate everyone for joining us each and every week. You guys make it special to be able to talk with you. Zach McConnell in here And we also got to shout out Ryan, although he wasn't with us tonight. Miss him. And Greg, I think you put together a great board for him. And you guys can follow me at Tino, Pattigno, across all social media platforms. I'm live on SiriusXM NASCAR Radio Friday morning, giving you the best bets on Tubi and SiriusXM NASCAR Radio itself. And then you can also listen to me on that same channel for Nuke the House. I'll be back on with them after a great winning weekend last week. So very excited to be back on there. I believe it'll be 3 weeks in a row I'm on there. So let's continue having some great efforts from a betting standpoint. And I'll give you guys some picks all throughout the weekend. Tune in. And thanks for tuning in tonight as well.
All right, Phil, what do you got going on? Where can everybody find you at?
Yeah, we've got the new episode of Full Tank Phil out now for Gateway. And just give me a follow Instagram for the race day card. Anything we add. The ads haven't been as good. I don't know what it is. Practice qualifying ads just haven't worked out for me. But we'll see what we can do this week at Gateway. Looking forward to this one and moving forward, getting to the Bristol night race. So I am traveling for work next week this time. So whether I am here or not is up for debate. I'll see if I can make it work. If I am here, it'll likely be in a hotel room. We're not sure. But in any case, thanks to everyone for jumping in. Great chat as always. And appreciate you for filling in this week, Greg. Do a great job.
Absolutely. So I am Greg in for Ryan over at wintherace.info. You guys can find us there. All of our content, including the betting sims and the daily fantasy content. We appreciate you all so much. Thank you for joining us. Have a fantastic rest of your evening. Best of luck this weekend, everybody. We're out here.